Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of All the WrestleManias, the podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
Thanks for joining us today. It's a rainy and gloomy and gray day here, but we're going to do our best to get through it by talking about some old-fashioned wrestling. We're going to do a special We Were There episode of All the WrestleManias. Now, we've done a few of these in the past for events that Rich and I have attended in person. I believe our first one was King of the Ring 1994, which Rich went to on Father's Day and met Macho Man at the grocery store and committed some election fraud, and that was a good story, so you should go back and check that out.
Yeah, I called the Georgia and asked them for find me 13,000 votes, and they did. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and get him right to the old King of the Ring. So good job, Rich. And then, of course, we talked about Capital Punishment 2010 from our nation's capital, which was mostly just punishing to watch again.
Yes.
That was not good. That was 2010.
No. Why did you have to go to that show?
I'm sorry.
I don't get it.
So this is a much better one. This is an epic one, actually. This is maybe an all-timer. This is the WWF Survivor Series from November 19th, 1995, from the U.S. Air Arena, formerly the Capitol Center, and now just known as a pile of rubble and
Wegmans. I think
there's a Wegmans there.
I think that's where the Landover Wegmans is, and that's where I think the Magic Johnson movie theater was at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a town center, shopping center now kind of thing.
Yeah. Also the site of Heavy Metal Parking Lot. That's where that was filmed, if you're familiar with that. So it was an epic place. It was a storied location. A friend of mine saw the Rolling Stones there in I think it was I'm going to say it was the only rock and roll tour, and he paid all kinds of money for like front and center seats because he's like, well, clearly these guys are about to retire any day now, so I better catch them now. And this was like 1980. So, of course, here we are, whatever this is, 40 years later.
Yeah. I think my brother saw AC/DC and Pink Floyd there, I believe.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so this was a big time concert stop on the arena circuit. It was Washington D.C.'s arena until the MCI Center, then the Verizon Center, now the Capital One Center was constructed.
Right.
The U.S. Air Arena, I think, is like the first arena I can think of that ever had like a sponsored name, not just being called like the Capitol Center or being named after some dude, but.
Yeah, we should look it up and see when it actually changed. I'm sure somebody out there knows the answer. I'm sure Wikipedia knows the answer.
Yeah,
it was demolished in 2002. Opened 73, closed March 2002, demolished 2002. So,
yeah, in 1993 it took on the name.
Yeah, that's pretty early.
I was there. It might have been the only time I'd ever been to that building. I had never been to like a Caps or a Bullets game before. Yes, youngins, the Wizards used to be the Bullets, and they used to be out of Baltimore and D.C., and they alternated between the Cap Center and the Baltimore Arena. So that had to be tough on like you have two home fields, or do you have no home fields?
I feel like you probably have no home fields. You have like half of a home field. But anyway, The attendance on this bad boy is 14,500, which is pretty good. Wikipedia says that venue held about 18,500 or so. So pretty well stacked. And tagline for this one is Teams of Federation Superstars Battle It Out. Who's fit to survive? That's pretty much, that's like two whole sentences. That's not really a tagline, but that's okay.
And they crammed that on the poster too. It's crazy. It's harsh, and it's interesting that the promotional poster for this event is Diesel and Shawn Michaels, not like Diesel and Bret, like on the program from this event. I have a souvenir program still. I recently had it signed by Bret Hart. Mm-hmm. I am stalking Kevin Nash now to try. It does look like he's going to be at an event in Charlotte very soon, and that's just too far to drive for one person's autograph. But
yeah, that event is like a 3-day thing, which sounds both fun and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, because I mean, all those kind of conventions are exhausting, and then like 3 days and it's only wrestlers. It's going to get sweaty, it's going to get smelly, and I mean, those Comic-Cons are already kind of like that, but this one's probably going to be worse because it's wrestling and wrestling fans. So,
yeah, a lot of grown men walking around with belts on their shoulders.
Yeah, for no reason that they did not win. You purchased your championship like Ted DiBiase. It doesn't count.
That's right, you jerk off. Nobody asked, so I'm going to tell you anyway. I went to the Tidewater Comic-Con at the Virginia Beach Convention Center last Sunday, and there were two main people that I wanted to see there. One was, three main people. Tag Team Demolition, of course, our buddies Axe and Smash, Bill Eadie and Barry Darso. They were there. They were a lot of fun. I think either they remembered us from from talking to them in Maryland, or they were just really good at bullshitting me. Either way, it's fine. We had a nice chat. We talked about some old school wrestling, some of the stuff that we've watched recently. That I think, what was it, Madison Square Garden show where Bill Eadie was the masked superstar.
Yeah, against Wahoo McDaniel, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He told me a funny story about that. Actually, I was going to tell you. So he said, he was telling me that at the time his wife was also Native American, and she and Wahoo sort of got along pretty well. They're from different tribes or whatever, but he was saying, those chops that Wahoo used to lay on you were, pretty serious, and you would carry that shit around for weeks or so. But his wife, I guess, got all up in Wahoo McDaniel's face and told him, I better not see the evidence of your match on my husband's chest tomorrow night.
Oh, man.
And so he actually kind of took it easy on the chops that night, which I think Mr. Eadie appreciated and his wife appreciated, so that was kind of funny.
That is funny.
And then
Wahoo really laid them in.
Oh my God!
I remember commenting on that. Wahoo was trying to kill people with those chops every time we've seen him. So,
yeah. Mr. Eadie said you were in for a bad night. He said it was a bit of a struggle to survive in with that guy. And then Barry Darso had a kind of funny, just a little 8x10. It was said the many faces of Barry Darso, and it had Crusher Khrushchev, and it had Smash, nice. And it had the Repo Man, and it had I think the golfing guy was even on there.
Nice.
Yeah, and I asked him, I said, has anybody had more gimmicks than you? And he's like, I don't think so. He's like, there's probably 11 of them. I said, well, that's why you keep that little handy 8x10 there, so you can remember them all. So
that's good.
Yeah, nice guys. And then I also talked to Sergeant Slaughter. He looks amazing. I don't know how he does it. He looks exactly the same. I don't know if he's had his chin reconstructed with titanium or something to keep it that prominent, but he was there. He had a big flag backdrop, which means that the posters or the pictures came out looking pretty good. I got an 8x10, and I got a T-shirt with him and a photo op. For an extra $20, he would put the person in a Cobra clutch, which would make a fun picture, but I didn't feel like coughing up the $20. I felt a little bit bad about that, so it didn't seem right to me.
You should have texted me right away. I would have Venmo'd you the money. No problem. No problem.
I would have been worried that you would have Venmo'd him 50, and so just make sure he doesn't get out of it.
Put it in stiff. Lock it in.
So he was real nice. I told him that we were watching his match against let's see. Oh, it was from that same Madison Square Garden show. Who was it? He and somebody were. Oh, it was Ivan Putski.
Yeah,
we're beating holy crap out of each other. So we talked a little bit about that for a minute. Anyway,
nice. Yeah, you meeting him actually spurred some real life conversations for me, because people saw our social media about it, but then they didn't comment on it. They just waited until they saw me to talk about it. So basically, they were asking you guys have basically crapped on him a ton for Stolen Valor, and yet here you are posing a photo with him and sharing a photo, and it's listen, he's a really nice guy, and he retweets our podcast multiple times, and so we can't help but like him, but at the same time, he's got this horrible flaw of staying in kayfabe just a little too much.
Yeah.
So it's okay to still be walking around, I'm Sergeant Slaughter, blah, blah, blah. But when you're going on Armed Forces Radio and telling war stories that didn't happen to you, that's not cool. That part's not okay.
And I do wonder a little bit about, how many people know that he wasn't actually a Marine at this point. I mean, I feel like people who know wrestling and watch wrestling understand, but maybe not. I don't know. One of the interesting things I noticed was standing in that line, the 3 or 4 people in front of me all were veterans or active duty, and that's part of living in this area. There's huge Navy bases here. There's Navy people all over the damn place. There's Marines. The other branches are all here too, and they all had a story for him. One of them said, "Oh, I was on the carrier when you came and did the the USO show that did something." Or another one said, "I was on the ship that launched the SEAL team that got Bin Laden," or whatever it was, and they all wanted to share that with him, and kind of. And he was very respectful. Thank you for your service, all that stuff. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing to observe.
That is a fascinating thing because, there's absolutely zero proof of him serving in the military. There was an Armed Forces magazine that has actually done a deep dive and demonstrated that he has not been in the military. So it is interesting. Maybe it's part of that whole the G.I. Joe toy as well. Maybe fully selling it, because I mean, if he had really served, I think he would have had a real tough time pretending to be an Iraq sympathizer during the Gulf War. So at least no one came up to him and said, "I was in the shit with you," or anything like that. So I guess he is an interesting phenomenon with that. I can't imagine any other pro wrestler has that kind of thing going on, except for maybe Paul White, the Big Show. Because of his initial gimmick of being introduced as Andre the Giant's son, he says that people still come up to him and say how much they loved his father. And he's like, you don't really know my father? Because my father is not Andre the Giant. Yeah. So,
well, I think it's a phenomenon about celebrity in general. When you meet somebody, you try to find that thing that sort of makes some connection for you. So when I met Demolition, I talked to them about watching them on TV when I was a kid and being sort of scared stiff by their gimmick and the metal and the hoods and all that stuff. And it's I don't know. I think to an extent you try to find something that gives you something to talk about. Somebody who you really don't know, their persona, right? And so in his case, his persona is the military guy. So people's reaction is just to go that route. Anyway, it was an interesting thing to see. I think you may be onto something with the G.I. Joe thing. I actually mentioned a friend of mine who's maybe about the same age, maybe a little bit older than me, but who didn't really watch wrestling growing up, but he did watch G.I. Joe. So he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize Sergeant Slaughter was a wrestler." I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. I said he was wrestling for 15 years before the G.I. Joe money came along. So anyway, they did have also Sergeant Slaughter, G.I. Joe toys and Funko Pops, and I really thought about it because they were kind of just cool looking, but they definitely wanted too much money. So
how much does Slaughter just charge for the photo op and autograph?
I think it was $40 for the autograph, or $40 for a picture, or $60 for both.
Okay, that's on par with about folks like Ted DiBiase charges and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
That's pretty standard. So I got a show special. I got the photo, the autograph, and the T-shirt for $80, which I didn't think was bad. So basically, I just paid $20 for the T-shirt. So
yeah,
it's a nice looking T-shirt. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a thing, but that just something fun. Other recent events, news, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully, you all caught our rundown on WrestleMania 27. That was a fun one to record. Hopefully you also caught our interview with Mr. Excellence Brandon Scott, really superstar alum from Maryland Championship Wrestling and now working for Virginia Championship Wrestling. Super nice guy, lots of fun wrestling stories, big Mr. Perfect fan. So I like talking to Brandon.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you want to meet us for some weird reason, we will be at the Virginia Championship Wrestling event at Old Dominion University this coming weekend. We will both be there. I am biting the bullet and driving the 4+ hours to go down to Norfolk from Washington, D.C. suburbs to visit with Tim and to watch a ton of indie wrestling.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So there's a panel discussion on June 2nd at 7 p.m. at the University Theater off of Hampton Boulevard, just across from Old Dominion University. And Mr. Excellence is going to be on the panel there, along with the director, Jerry Stefanitsis. He's the director of operations for VCW. And Jonathan The Reason Elliott, who is their talent coordinator, but I didn't realize, just learned today, he was also a tag team champion in Chikara. He's also a former Liberty Lottery belt holder for VCW, so he's got some wrestling cred of his own. He's not just behind the curtain. And we've got two phenomenal academics from ODU. Dr. Mark Willett is a scholar in English. He's done some really cool stuff about wrestling and media and gender roles. One of his articles is titled, If You Want to Be the Man, You Got to Beat the Man.
Nice.
And then Dr. Miles McNutt is our other one. He does media and especially television and sort of writes about fan culture and fandom. So those five panelists, and then I'll be moderating. So that one's June 2nd. And then June 3rd, ODU, 2 p.m. for the first show. We're calling that the Matinee Madness, maybe. And then the 7 p.m. is the Primetime Pandemonium. VCWProWrestling.com for tickets and stuff. I think there's still some available. So anyway, we'll be there. We'll wear, I'm not sure what we're going to wear yet, but you'll be able to spot us.
Absolutely.
We'll be acting like maniacs. I have to be somewhat professional because it's like I'm sponsoring it as, an ODU dean, so I can't get like faced and like drop an elbow on anybody, but we can still have a good time.
Yeah. It'll be good. That's my job.
Yeah. Well, and Mr. Excellence is going to face the Boar in the evening match, and we've talked to the Boar as well. So you should check out all those episodes. We're just raking in all the independent wrestling talent over here. So are you ready to talk Survivor Series 95?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
We gave you the venue. The commentary team here is Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Mr. Perfect.
It is the return of Mr. Perfect.
That's right. They make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
He looks great.
He sounds great.
So since this is we were there, tell us a little bit about how you, learned about that show and how you ended up getting tickets, how you got down there, who you went with, that sort of thing.
Well, this was a lot more of a standard fare event. At this point, I was mainlining professional wrestling as much as possible, and they made the announcement that tickets were going on sale. And this is still like the olden days. So it's like a local broadcast commercial that tells you. It's not like on the ticker running on the bottom where they're going to be during the main broadcast. It's like a local advertisement, like all your favorite superstars, blah blah blah, like just like they hammer at you like it's Vince McMahon screaming into like a really cheap microphone about it and stuff. So immediately I was like, well, we need to go, and I pestered my dad for us to go. So we went on down to the Security Square Mall to the Hechts, I believe, that had the Ticketmaster booth on the second floor up there, tucked away. Weird. I don't understand why this was the time that Ticketmaster had physical locations, and I don't know why it was in the second story of the Hechts at the mall.
Ours was at the Boscov's at the Galleria.
Yeah. So I guess that's just a thing. They just put offices in department stores. Anyways, we stood in line. The lady pulled out the laminated sheet with the seating chart for the US Air Arena, and we chose our seats that were on the floor, probably about 10 rows back along the aisle, the entrance aisle, I should say, but we weren't right on the aisle. It was just, that side of things. I do believe it's possible to see a 15-year-old me briefly. I think I sent you a screen cap of it very briefly. It may have been me. It may not have been me. I do believe it was just my dad and I that went to this event. I don't think my friend Joey came along too. Anyways, this was a much more conventional thing. And I remember it being it was November and it was cold, and I had never been there, and I don't think my dad had possibly ever been there either, but he kind of worked in the area, so he knew how to get there, because this was before MapQuest and all that kind of stuff. You had to actually read the road signs on how to get there and stuff. So yeah, that's basically it. I didn't dress up for this one. I didn't make a sign. I didn't accost Todd Pettengill. I do remember seeing the presidential box and being confused and being like, there's no way in hell the president's actually here. And then for a split second, because I was only 15, going, that is the president? And then it's like, no, that's not the president.
He really looks like the president. Like,
they did a good job with this one.
Yeah.
Not like the Barack Obama at the Capitol punishment.
That guy was terrible. Yeah, the first time he comes on screen, it's like, wait.
Yeah.
Did this really happen? I was just, oh yeah, here's the picture you sent. I'm pretty sure that's you. It looks like you.
Yeah. Me trying to get at Ahmed Johnson because I was a major Ahmed Johnson mark at this time. And he had just debuted too, but like I was sold on him immediately. The dude looks like an action figure.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. So I was immediately roped in and like hooked on him. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is actually me trying to fight my way over to try and get a high five from him. So
nice. Well, that's pretty cool. That's a nice little souvenir. Here's one for a lucky fan. Going back to the Ticketmaster thing, do you remember whenever they would do those announcements, they would always end up by saying, at all Ticketmaster and Ticketron outlets? Because there were like two services at the time, and sort of like VHS and Beta. Ticketmaster wiped out poor Ticketron.
Yeah, I remember there was also the record and tape traders in Catonsville also sold Ticketmaster stuff, but we didn't go there, I think. And I remember we were there on the day that the tickets went on sale at the Hechts, and we had to sit in a line. And it was very reminiscent of when we would go with my like grandparents to buy the tickets for the Ringling Brothers Circus and stuff like that. You always had to sit in a line and wait for them to open and stuff. So,
well, that's fun. Well, I'm glad you were there, so we got a chance to watch it. 1995, I was in my first year of college at Shippensburg University. Let's see, November. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing in November, but I was probably drinking too much. So not really much has changed, basically.
No.
Any background on this event before we get into the actual card?
Well, coming into this event, Diesel is the champion, and he has been champion for almost a year. He is the longest reigning. This is his longest title reign, and the longest title reign of anybody in the 1990s for WWF. So that's really the big thing that's going into this show. You have some other things happening. So you have the Kliq has formed in the WWF between Shawn Michaels, 1-2-3 Kid, Diesel, and Triple H. Bret Hart claims at some point he was invited to join and declined. I don't necessarily believe that, but okay. And then also, basically, one entire team is another backstage Kliq, and that is the Bone Street Krew that contained Undertaker, Savio Vega, Fatu, Henry Godwinn. So those are the four that we see together, but also Yokozuna was part of that, and Samu, and several other Kama/Godfather/Goodfather, Charles, what's his name? I can't remember.
Right.
Charles Wright was also a member of the Bone Street Krew. So, and at one point, even when Fatu comes to the ring, he's also wearing a Bone Street Krew hat. So it's an interesting time. The locker room is basically split between those two Kliqs and then the remainder.
I think it's adorable. They have like little clubs, little like pirate clubs, like with their own hats and T-shirts, and I'm sure they had secret handshakes and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't think the Kliq went that far. And back in this time, there really wasn't the internet or anything like that, so people didn't really know about this stuff unless it's like talked out loud. So like if you're watching this and you just see Fatu wearing the BSK hat, you're like, okay, well, he's got the letters BSK on a hat. I don't know what that stands for, but okay. But it's actually his little backstage Kliq.
Cute.
Yeah.
Well, so in terms of matches, the first one that we actually don't see because it's a dark match was the Smoking Guns. That was Billy and Bart versus the Public Enemy, which is Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge. I don't need to see that one. We've noted the Public Enemy in one of our previous specials. Both of those guys are no longer with us, which is too bad, but I still don't need to watch that match. Billy Gunn, Jesus, I can't believe how long he's been around sometimes.
Yeah.
And how amazing he still looks. The first proper match that we see, though, is the Body Donnas, which is Skip, which is actually Chris Candido, Rad Radford, Dr. Tom Pritchard, and 1-2-3 Kid Sean Waltman with Sonny and Ted DiBiase versus, on the other side, the underdogs, and that's Marty Jannetty, Hakushi, Barry Horowitz, and Bob Holly. This was a classic 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match. I don't know, they would have classified Bob Holly as an underdog, although maybe he was at the time. I don't remember.
At this point, yeah. I mean, Bob Holly never really makes it to the tippy top, so...
Yeah, that's true.
And the closest Marty Jannetty ever really got was he was Intercontinental Champion. Barry Horowitz, he finally got a WrestleMania match at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And Hakushi sadly never got used to his full potential. I loved Hakushi. Hakushi was one of my favorites.
That guy's rad. I like him a lot.
Yeah, and there's a match with him and Bret Hart at some point that is excellent as well.
Oh, yeah?
So I'd recommend trying to find that. I had to look up who Rad Radford was. I had no memory of him.
Yeah, he performed in Mexico under the ring name Madonna's Boyfriend. And he was in ECW as Louis Spicoli.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's a hell of a gimmick. What's your gimmick? I'm Madonna's boyfriend.
It's Mexico. Don't worry about it. I don't know. The Body Donnas win this one. I didn't take a whole lot of notes. I was impressed with Hakushi throughout. That guy, he just looks so tough. He's just like a solid block of muscle. He has a sort of what do I want to say? Great Muta kind of like build to him.
Yeah,
a sort of like that kind of stocky, muscular, sort of like martial arts. I really like the writing. I assume they're fake tattoos, maybe, I don't know, on his face. Makes him look extra scary.
One, it's important to point out that the 1-2-3 Kid at this point has turned heel. He has taken a bribe from Ted DiBiase, and that eventually leads to Mr. Perfect saying that at one point someone almost knocked the price tag off the kid, which nice line. Mr. Perfect also refers to himself as an all-sport athlete in juxtaposition to Bob Holly, who is car racer Bob Holly at this point. Mm-hmm. Sparky Plug prior to that. But he's still in the NASCAR driving gimmick. Yeah, that's really all that's really here to call out, except for at one point Skip does a front face bump, but he didn't really take any impact, and it literally made me scared for a second. Like, I was like, I don't remember him dying in the ring at this show, because like he just suddenly just like faints and keels over and goes down, and it's like, oh my god, is he okay? And then he's fine. It's just a weird timing front face bump. I don't know why he chose to do it. Like, was he watching too much Ric Flair the night before?
I was just looking up Kushi, and so he actually started as a luchador, trained in Mexican lucha libre, and then he actually later, after his WWE career, became like a chairman at Michinoku Pro Wrestling in Japan. His character with the Buddhist like little sayings and stuff written all over his skin is apparently a riff on a Japanese folk character. So that's a thing that I learned while we were talking about it. Moving on. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
This is a bit of a 2-match show, but there's some good stuff along the way.
There is a brilliant promo from Jim Cornette after that match. He lays down that Razor Ramon is ready for a rumble room at the Puzzle Factory. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it was pretty hilarious sounding.
A rubber room at the Puzzle Factory.
Rubber room. It sounded like rumble room, and I rewound it and watched it like 5 times. I still didn't get it, folks, because Cornette just talks so fast. And then he ends it with, as you know what they say, if you can't get along, we're gonna get it on. Like, nice. Yeah. No, that's a really awesome promo. He has a couple of really good promos in this one, actually. He's all over this one. Everybody. He's representing everybody. He's everybody's manager. It's hilarious.
I wonder how many appearance fees he got for this one, because he's out there.
I hope he got a lot.
We should make sure to tag him when we post this. Maybe he can talk about it. So the next Survivor Series elimination match is the women's one. So this is This is an interesting one. Okay, so on one side we've got Bertha Faye, Aja Kong, Tomoko Watanabe, and Lioness Asuka with Harvey Whippleman. And on the other side, we've got Alundra Blaze, Kyoko Inoue, Saki Hasegawa, and Chaparita Asari. And so some of these, the last two of these women don't even have Wikipedia pages. Everybody else does. Alundra Blaze, of course, was a big deal. And she was around. She was pretty good.
Yeah, she actually still claims to be the WWF Women's Champion, by the way.
Oh, really?
Because she was like, I've never been defeated for the belt. But I think throwing it in the trash can on WCW television counts as abdicating the title.
I would think so, too, yeah.
Just saying.
Better known as Medusa, of course. Apparently she drives monster trucks now.
Yes. Yes, she does.
Good for her. I think that's awesome. Also, she was married to Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. But she married and divorced him in 1990. So,
in and out.
That wasn't meant to be. I'd say this one actually was a lot more fun than I expected it to be.
Yes.
Aja Kong fucking works her ass off. She's kind of
incredible.
Like, she's kind of this like stubby little lady. She's not like particularly muscular, or she doesn't look like anything at all, honestly. But
she's a pit bull.
She just she is incredible. She's 52 now. So
I swear we saw her on something else.
I think so too, but I can't remember.
But she showed up on AEW a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Maybe that's where I'm thinking of her, of having seen her before. Yeah, because I mean, she was in WWF briefly. This is basically it for her, and we haven't watched anything else. So, yeah. But she is vicious and mean and built. My God. But this match, though, just starts off fire right away. It lets you... There's a really snug kick to the face right away at the start of this match. It lets you know this is a real wrestling match. This isn't any kind of women's diva kind of match or anything. And you can hear the crowd go, oh, right away on that first shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is serious. Like, I don't know if strong style is accurate or not. I don't know enough about the sort of the distinctions, but it seems like kind of typical Japanese strong style stuff where people are just really getting whacked.
Yeah.
And Kong, actually, not to spoil it, but she gets all 4 of the pins for her team. She's just such a badass. I really like it a lot.
Yeah, and the referee is a young Mike Chioda.
Hey, Mike Chioda.
If you didn't notice, but that's Mike Chioda, who we'll be seeing down in VCW this coming weekend. Mm-hmm. And this is the first Women's Survivor Series match since 1987, the first Survivor Series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a guy sitting in the front row through this entire match, just with his jaw on the floor, just incredible. He was blown away, and I mean, you know, the one wrestler, she was really tiny. I had a really hard time catching the name, so I apologize. She lands a sky twister press, so like she jumps off the top rope in like a pike position and spins like 500 degrees and lands flat on the other person, just like, and it's fast. It's incredibly violent and impressive looking.
I think that was Chaparita Asari, I think.
Okay. She also later goes for a crossbody on Kong, and it does not work. Kong just catches her and throws her. It's incredible. It's another amazing little spot. This match is filled with real cool little things that you don't see a lot in women's wrestling, and all of these folks are properly trained, know what they're doing, and putting on a hell of a show. Alundra Blaze is almost like the worst one in this match.
She's definitely the odd one out, and she does okay to keep up, but it's a rough one. This reminds me, there was another pay-per-view we watched where there were like a bunch of Japanese women in a match, and the crowd had like no interest at all in it, but if you actually watched it, it turned out to be one of the standouts of the whole show. I don't remember which one. You remember which one I'm talking about?
The one with the War Games that we watched?
Yeah, it could have been.
That had a Japanese women's 3-6 woman tag, maybe something like that.
There were a lot of people
like
in the
Dusty
ring.
Rhodes couldn't get the names right and just kept saying that's a handsome woman and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the one. So this is another really, really nice surprise. The first team there of Bertha, Aja, Tomako, and Lioness with Harvey Whippleman gets the win thanks to Aja Kong just, again, single-handedly pinning all four of the opposing wrestlers.
Yeah, so. And that's when Jim Ross lets us know that Aja Kong is the national spokesperson for orange juice in Japan, apparently, at this time. I don't know how JR knows that. But that is an impressive fact for him to inform us of.
Yeah. What was her GPA in college, JR?
I know. What football team did she play for?
Maybe that's how she stays so healthy and strong with all that orange juice. Good for her.
Didn't work for Rush Limbaugh, though.
Yeah, well, there were other things that worked there. The Aja Kong diet worked for me. So, there's a nice little break from the Survivor Series stuff here in the middle of the show. It's kind of a weird thing. The show's going along one way, and then all of a sudden, here are Goldust. Of course, that's Dustin Reynolds versus Bam Bam Bigelow. And there's some good promos, kind of setting up their little feud. I don't know. They both, they can really work. That's all I wrote down.
They go fast, and it's incredible. But the Goldust promo at the beginning is incredible. So he says that beware the beast man, he's the devil's pawn, which is a famous line from Planet of the Apes, and that he's waiting in line for a ticket to the biggest show on earth, and now he'll face the tragedy of all his nightmares. Damn, Goldust.
I love it. Did he write that stuff for himself, do you think?
At this time, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, and well, we've called it out before, but props to him for just totally leaning in on that character, just going for it. So I think what makes Goldust amazing is that he never winks at the gimmick. He never he never pulls back and says, "Oh, you guys know this is a joke, right?" He's like, "No, this is me. I am a gold pansexual Hollywood superstar. I'm here to fuck your men and your women, and then beat all of them up also."
And your trees and your kitchen appliances and anything that looks at me.
Whatever you got, I'm going to have sex with it. That's a Goldust.
And fight it.
Maybe both. No one will know until it happens. So.
Yeah. So one of the most impressive things in this match was that they do some real mat wrestling, almost like collegiate style. And Goldust shoots the half. He actually rolls Bam Bam around and gets him shoulders down and pinned down, and that doesn't end the match, but it's a really impressive moment to where these guys are grappling for real. And it had a very, very more NWA look, and I'm sure that's possibly because Dustin had just come over from WCW. He hadn't been there for a very long time at this point, and Bam Bam is relatively young at this point too. And they're also using special old school terms, referring to this as the special attraction match, which is something you don't really hear used that often anymore. This match was incredibly fun to watch, and up there, probably one of my favorite Bam Bam Bigelow matches besides his King of the Ring final against Bret Hart.
Yeah, he's really good. He's he doesn't do a whole lot of sort of the aerial stuff that he was kind of known for here, which is an interesting choice. But actually, I think that's the right choice given the way that Goldust is working and the way that they're working together. Like you said, I don't know. I somehow doubt that Dustin has any collegiate wrestling background, but he would have had to have picked up some of that stuff just hanging around with other guys who knew how to work.
And Goldust wins with a running bulldog. So I guess that was his old, the natural finisher over in WCW. So yeah. I don't think he's got... I can't remember what Goldust actually used for a finisher right now, but I don't think it was that.
So, yeah, great match. The special attraction thing is kind of I don't know, it's hard to describe. Maybe it's sort of like a co-main event in a way, but also more it is an old-fashioned term.
Yeah, so I think the last time we heard it used on this show was at your show, the Capital Punishment show, and that was the match with Jack Swagger versus Eric what's-his-name, and it was because they had to fill time before the main event, and so they suddenly sent Justin Roberts out with this is a special attraction match, and Jack Swagger and this other guy came down and fought. So
Yeah. We're back to our Survivor Series format then for the next 2 matches here. So the first one is...
well, hold on now.
Hold on. Did I miss a promo?
We have another talk with fake Bill Clinton at this point with Bob Backlund.
Oh, that one was so bad.
It's so horrible. I would let you blow by, but it is so absolutely terrible that after it, Vince McMahon actually corrects Bob Backlund and what he says, because Bob Backlund goes, "How do you justify the expense of the 8,000 federal employees?" And the Clinton impersonator is just like, what? And like Todd Pettengill is stuck between them. And like, it was the only time I ever felt sympathetic for Todd Pettengill, because he's sitting there between these two guys that have absolutely no chemistry, not even like planned lines or anything like that, and it's just uncomfortable.
It's really
uncomfortable.
I'm not sure what the point is. So Backlund's in like a suit and bow tie, and he got his high and tight like military haircut there. And so I don't know if he's supposed to be like an arch Republican, or if he's supposed to be like a libertarian, or what his deal is.
So he's setting up a gimmick of running for president, and it's the most obnoxious thing, and it's horrible that he does. It's like, oh, man, Bob, I wish you just would have not come back after Diesel destroyed you in 3 seconds at Madison Square Garden. This is so cringy. It's so bad. It's uncomfortable.
It's not good. Yeah. All right. So sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead, but the next one is the Dark Side. Now this is Undertaker, Savio Vega, Fatu, and Henry O. Godwin, with Paul Bearer in their corner, versus the Royals. So that's King Mabel, Jerry the King Lawler, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who has a fake blue blood lineage, and Isaac Yankem.
Yeah.
AKA
Jerry Lawler's dentist.
AKA Jerry Lawler's dentist. So it's the Royals plus Jerry's dentist. And they are with Sir Mo. Another, again, 4-on-4 Survivor Series match. First off, Jerry Lawler has an absolutely gorgeous mullet.
It is beautiful, isn't it?
It's a work of art. Yeah.
It's wavy, and it's perfectly wavy. Like, it's incredible. You couldn't have drawn a better mullet on somebody.
Do you think his hair is like naturally curly and wavy like that, or do you think he had it permed? It's probably a mix. I think he's got a little bit of a wave and curl to his hair, because he does now. But there's definitely product happening, and probably hours in aluminum foil under a hairdryer before it. No, he looks great though. He looks fit. That dude never ages. He's incredible.
No,
this one's fun. There's a lot of violence.
Some poor local Maryland jobbers carry Mabel out on a litter, like the Macho Man's litter from like yonder days. Mabel, 500 pounds, 7 foot tall. These poor sons of bitches are stuck under him, carrying him out. It's so bad. It's so terrifying. But like the entrance is amazing. So it's a great visual, and then he's got like this dark hip hop gangster rap kind of backing track for his theme coming out. It is terrifying. It's the best. I hated King Mabel. I just hated the whole concept. But for some reason in this, it just worked at this event. Watching this back,
yeah, and well, maybe it's just having him with the others, right? And
yeah,
and so just by the way, Sir Mo there is as in Mabel and Mo as in Men on a Mission.
Yeah, it's his former tag team partner.
His former tag team partner. Yeah, and in a way, I think, well, I don't know. There's a lot of big dudes here. Fatu, the Godwin, Undertaker, Savio Vega is on the smaller side compared to some of these guys.
Yeah.
And on the other side, Jerry Lawler is probably the smallest of those guys. So it's a lot of beef slapping around in the ring.
And this is Undertaker's return,
right?
From the crushed orbital that Mabel gave him.
For real,
right? For real, in a botched clothesline, supposedly. Crushed his orbital bone, and so now he is in his Phantom of the Opera mask, or as Vince McMahon refers to it, as the Undertaker with some sort of adhesion on his face.
What the fuck are you talking about, Vince? Does he not know like words? I don't understand.
I don't know if like someone told him, the SAT scores are down. You need to help the kids get their SATs up. So
it's not even used correctly.
If you could throw in some of these big words, that'd be awesome.
God. So kind of the same way that Aja Kong wipes out all the one side on the earlier women's match, the Undertaker kind of plays that role here, and he choke slams and or tombstones virtually everybody on the Royal side.
Except for Mabel.
Who hauls ass out of the ring. He moved pretty fast for a big guy.
Yeah, this match went forever before there was really any eliminations. It was kind of weird. And then I also couldn't help notice, but like seeing Fatu / Rikishi this young, you can see how much his kids, the Usos, resemble him. Like it was terrifying. Like that's Jimmy and Jay right there. What the hell? Like, and like we have baby Kane. Isaac Yankem was Kane. We know that he was also fake Diesel. After Kevin Nash bites it for WCW, and then also interestingly, I wonder if this is the first time. But Mr. Perfect tells Vince McMahon to call Hunter Hearst Helmsley Triple H. He likes to go by Triple H.
Interesting.
This. So I don't know if this is the first time, but that is very early in Hunter Hearst Helmsley's existence in WWF to be called Triple H.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And it's just frightening that 16 years after this Survivor Series, Triple H and Undertaker have a barn burner at WrestleMania. 16 years.
It's crazy.
That time period can get a driver's license.
So, yeah, if Undertaker and Triple H had a baby when they first met, their offspring could drive to their WrestleMania match. So this says that they shortened his name during the D-Generation X era, which was 97 to 99. So it's like a full 2 years before all that.
Yeah,
Mr. Perfect, ahead of the curve.
Mr. Perfect calling it, and that's probably around the time when like Jim Cornette, that everybody takes out of context, where Jim Cornette says that Hunter Hearst Helmsley will never make any money. He has to change his name to Triple H. He has to do something to make himself cool. So
yeah, well
he was right.
That gimmick was already it was pretty much DOA. The whole blue blood thing with the kind of snotty face, and it worked for maybe a little bit, but longer term, he was going to have to do something. There's some really solid Bret and Diesel promos after this.
Yeah,
like kind of old school pre-tapes.
Bret is wearing a shirt for his hockey team.
I noticed that. That's the most Bret Hart thing ever.
Diesel says he's Big Daddy Cool, and he isn't paid by the hour.
This is going to turn into a Bret Hart Stan podcast here for the last however long it takes us to cover that match. But goddamn, I love that guy.
He's so good.
I like everything he does. And we'll never understand people who say he was not as good on the mic or he had boring promos. Like, I think maybe his character was a little too close to him, but like his character is fully formed and it's there in every one of his promos, like we've talked about before. He's a serious guy. He takes the business of wrestling seriously. He takes the athletic side of wrestling seriously. He's here to do it to the absolute best of his ability. And you better not get in his way. And like, that's it. That's all it takes,
Yeah, it's real to him, damn it.
It's real to him, damn it. So there's also another fun promo. Let's see, this is coming for the upcoming wild card Survivor Series match. So British Bulldog, Sid Vicious, Ted DiBiase, Ahmed Johnson, HBK, and Jim Cornette are all there, with Todd Pettengill trying to keep order. Good old Pettengill has resting derp face, is what I wrote down. He always just looks like he's about to go derp, 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 derp.
That's why I hated him.
Derp, derp. That guy sucks. Great, another good Cornette,
because he's on both sides, because he's got folks that he represents on both sides of this match, and that's because this match is the wild card Survivor Series match, where basically Gorilla Monsoon, who was taken over for Jack Tunney, decided, well, these 8 guys don't have anything to do. Let's put them on the show and let's mix it up. Let's put half the heels and half the faces together and on 2 separate teams, and it'll go great. It's gonna go great.
It's gonna be great. There's a lot of star power here. A lot of guys on the upswing. So on one side you've got Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, British Bulldog, Psycho Sid, with Jim Cornette and Ted DiBiase. And on the other side you've got Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Razor Ramon, and Dean Douglas with Mr. Fuji. There's a lot of, with the exception of old Dean Douglas. Nothing against him, but who?
Well, I mean, that's Shane Douglas. He's just using the name Dean in WWE.
Oh, yeah, from ECW.
Yeah, so he's Sonny's ex-husband, right? As you told us earlier?
Sure.
Not Sonny. Alundra Blaze's ex-husband. You literally told us that.
No, that was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Eddie Gilbert. Never mind. Fuck it.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post.
We'll do it live.
Anyway, so I kind of like this one. It gets, especially once it gets down to like Bulldog and Razor, or like Yokozuna and Ahmed Johnson. Like some of the pairings in here are like freaking phenomenal. There's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, you got Yokozuna weighing in at 641 pounds at this time, so that is a full 100 pounds heavier than the last time that he had shown up for us. This match is really confusing though for the audience, and I don't think they should have done it, because this is the audience. The audience still here is living by there are good guys and there are bad guys. Don't mix them. And so the crowd doesn't know who to cheer for. They don't know what team they want to win, because they want to see Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson win, but they don't want to see Bulldog and Psycho Sid win. They want to see Razor Ramon win, but they don't want to see Yoko, Owen Hart, or Dean Douglas to win. So what you going to do? The crowd doesn't know what to do. And so kind of just falls flat with the crowd, even though there's some really good stuff that happens in this match.
Yeah, it ends up being a bit of a mess. You know what they should have done is just had Ted DiBiase versus Mr. Fuji. I would have watched the shit out of that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Can you imagine? So I didn't take too many notes, but Ahmed Johnson, that guy, man, he's an absolute unit. It's a shame that he had so many injury problems that kind of kept cutting his career short. But he hits that body slam of Yokozuna, and it does that huge jumping splash on him right near the end. That was really amazing. And
this is Ahmed Johnson's first pay-per-view. And he lands his Pearl River Plunge on Owen Hart, but they don't call it that yet. So they just call it a Tiger Bomb. So, he's still not there. They're not quite there with him yet. You're right. There's like a ton of like great matchups in this. Shawn Michaels ends up getting the Ricky Morton treatment, which I kind of enjoy just watching Shawn Michaels and get the shit beat out of him for like 10 minutes straight. Yeah, and then. And hilariously at the end, Jim Cornette is celebrating because, a guy on his team, his team won because the British Bulldog, who he's managing, won. Yeah. Even though Yoko and Owen Hart, who he's also managing, lost. But got that one winner.
He's an agent of chaos. He's like the Joker. He's just wants to watch the world burn. Oh, the other matchup I enjoyed was Sid and Scott Hall. Man, like that really brought home how huge Scott Hall was, like physically huge, because he holds up pretty well in there against Sid.
And how much money that guy was.
Jesus.
Man, like the fans went ballistic for him on his entrance, and he looks great with that Intercontinental belt around his waist. Man. Is this too bad? Too bad. What could have been?
Alrighty, are we ready for the main event?
Well, no, because now we have one more Bill Clinton.
Oh God!
Here,
why? Why do you do this?
Well,
to me,
this one is hilarious because Sonny is sitting on his lap.
Yeah,
and they're making all kinds of references and stuff like that, and then Mr. Clinton says, "I think I have a spot for you in my cabinet. Sonny, you would make a perfect undersecretary." Oh yeah. We're not even in the Attitude Era yet, folks. They're getting saucy.
Yeah, so subtle. So subtle.
This is brought to you by Karate Fighters.
Hey kids, get some action figures and let your dad laugh at this joke about fellatio. He'll love it.
Action figures.
This action figure is the undersecretary. Anyway, so the main event.
One other very fascinating little note.
Okay.
They pan back to the announcing table, and you can see Mr. Perfect has normal notes, and Jim Ross has normal notes, but Vince's notes are covered in ADHD doodles. He's just doodling all, like he's wired. He is absolutely psyched up. He's probably had 10 cups of coffee that morning and maybe a bump, and he is drawn all over his notes. It's hilarious looking. I recommend rewinding and going back and looking at
I'll have to take a look. He is absolutely awful as a as a commentator. And we've talked about this before. He does the same thing. 1, 2, almost got him. Oh, no.
What a maneuver.
What a maneuver.
What a maneuver. What a maneuver. You could just have like a soundboard with the buttons. There's like 4 buttons. 1, 2, no. What a maneuver.
Almost got him. Yeah, he doesn't know what stuff it's called necessarily. He just yells. It's not good. It's objectively bad.
No. Please just let Jim Ross talk.
Right,
just
you got Jim Ross and you got Mr. Perfect sitting there. Just maybe don't. Just go sit in the back, watch it on the monitor, something. Go sell T-shirts at the merch stand.
Yeah.
All right.
Just be quiet.
So the main event is a no DQ match for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. It's Diesel, of course, Kevin Nash versus Bret the Hitman Hart. This is they've been feuding off and on. Remember, we talked about them at King of the Ring '94, which also saw in person. Now that was a decent match. It wasn't a great match, but this is a great match. This is a top 10 maybe. Top 10 for Bret and maybe top 10 of all time. What do you think?
At least for Bret, probably, and definitely probably in the top 3 for Diesel.
Yeah.
And this was the Boar's favorite match,
That's right.
as he mentioned on our show, which actually is what prompted me thinking about us doing this one. So yeah, this match is definitely in the echelons for Bret because he does such a good job of making Diesel look good, and then Diesel does a good job of making Bret look good. So if you watch the King of the Ring '94 and then this, you can really see how quickly Diesel improves in the ring, and it's really a great little study to watch.
Yeah, he's really come along. He started as a guy with just size, basically, but it turns out he actually had a lot of athletic ability as well. Yeah, I noticed the Boar. I remembered the Boar saying that that's his favorite too, and actually watching Kevin Nash here, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like so much of what the Boar does is straight from the Kevin Nash playbook. With his own twist, obviously, but I could really see the influence. So
yeah,
that'll something to look for the next time we watch a VCW event. So Bret, of course, comes out looking serious as a heart attack. He does that little eyebrow.
Heart attack.
Get it? He does a little eyebrow waggle thing, though, when he looks at the belt, which I think is kind of cool. He's like, did you just almost make a joke, Bret Hart? Of course, this starts with lots of heat on Bret, as you would expect, right? Facing a monster. He's going to have to get beat up for a little bit. And I think, part of what makes Bret such a genius is how real and painful he makes everything look. He's already a bit of a smaller guy, but then especially when he's in the ring with somebody like Diesel, who just so overpowers and oversizes him, you sort of believe you can believe that he's in danger of being physically destroyed, and it makes you just root for him even harder, I think. And he just sells everything so well that you're like, man, how's Bret going to come back from this? How's Bret going to get out of this and beat this Goliath?
This match is wonderful, and the thing, I love angry Bret. I love mean Bret. I love it because he suddenly gets ruthless, and the stuff that he does in these no disqualification matches, he does so well to make them look real. And look like a fight. So like there's none of this bullshit of wheeling a grocery cart and a trash can to the ring or kendo sticks. Bret's going to use the microphone cables. He's going to use the camera cables. He's going to try and find a wrench under the ring for tight. Like it's so much more real looking with him. And this match, they immediately just like look at each other and then turn around and undo the turnbuckle covers. Brilliant. Just right there in front of them. Just, we know exactly where they're going with this. Yeah. They know they're ready to throw down. They're going to fight. They have the same ideas. They have the same mentality towards each other. Bret takes a humongous bump into those steel steps. It is just brutal. And then he takes some chair shots from Diesel. But Bret turns it around by biting. He just bites him on the face. He bites his arm like, ooh. And then Bret starts working the leg. So like, even though it's a no disqualification match, Bret is still thinking tactically, not just like, I just got to keep smashing him with crazy shit. I need to take those legs out. I need to buckle him down. I need to take the big guy down and put him in the figure four. I need to soften him up for the sharpshooter. He's always got that strategy going, even though he just knows he has more tools in his shed to work with because he can't get disqualified now.
Yeah, for sure. I like the biting, and I like he climbs on Diesel's back and it's like choking him. It's like a little angry dog fighting a really big dog.
Yeah.
And those kicks to Kevin Nash's lower leg to soften it up, to go for the eventual figure four, just so sharp, and like right on the monitor, and you can see like Diesel like kind of like breaking down. So he's going to topple over eventually. Lawler, he lays Nash out, after working on the legs for a while, and Lawler says they're all the same size when they're laying down. Or no, maybe it's Jim Ross. Sorry, not Lawler. Says they're all the same size when they're laying down, which I thought was a pretty good line.
Diesel shakes Bret off the top rope, and he straddles the rope, and Perfect just says he's joining the Vienna Boys Choir.
Yeah, they go quite a long time. This whole match lasts 24 and a half, actually almost 25 minutes. Bret gets put through a table, and you're like, well, that's it. Like that, it's got to be over for him, right? Like,
I think we need to rewind on that. You don't see, this is WWF of the golden era, kind of here, the good old days. You didn't see people go through tables. When tables got involved, it was scary. I vividly remember that spot from seeing that show live, that Bret goes through the table, and me, the consummate Bret Hart fan as a kid, just being like the air sucked out of my chest, because not just Bret is hurt, but Bret just went through the Spanish announce table. I Googled it to make sure that this wasn't the first time that happened, the Spanish announce table, and it was not. Apparently it happened at like a Saturday Night main event in like 1988, like Harley Race went through a table. The first instance of the Spanish announce table being broken was indeed at the 1995 Survivor Series, as confirmed by Carlos Cabrera, the announcer at the table. The Harley Race story was just the first time anybody in WWF had gone through any table. So, yeah, that was a rare thing in the day to have anybody go through a table. So and the Spanish announce guys were not ready whatsoever. Poor Hugo and Carlos went diving, and they hurt themselves, and like it was a rough shot.
Yeah, no, that was great. R.I.P. the Spanish announce table.
Yeah,
get them every time. Somebody should put together like a master loop. There's got to be one on YouTube somewhere of the Spanish announce table getting destroyed.
There's some other vicious shots that Bret takes too. So Bret does his famous front run into the turnbuckle, but he does it into the uncovered turnbuckle, which gruesome, and he sells the hell of it amazing. And then Bret finally gets the chair and starts wailing on Kevin Nash's legs, which is just cruel. It looks cruel, and like you can see the anger in Bret's eyes. He's so good with that angry face that he does. And then I I didn't realize that like picking the guy up on your shoulder and dropping him face first onto the turnbuckle was called snake eyes until recently. But JR calls it snake eyes in this when Diesel does it to Bret. I was completely caught off guard. I didn't think that was a term yet, or I guess that term is old.
Interesting. I didn't catch that one. Yeah, that's. I kind of wonder. What you're saying about Bret's emoting and his acting with his eyes. It's kind of surprising that he never did more acting. I know he did that Lonesome Dove, one of the Lonesome Dove movies, TV movies, but he's done a couple of odds and ends. But I don't know. Maybe it's his Canadian accent that holds him back.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much that he can do except for like that SCTV guys or something, something with them. JR also points out that this is Bret's 41st WWF pay-per-view.
That's insane.
That is insane. And that's even more insane to think about because they had just started doing the In Your House pay-per-views this very year. So it wasn't like now where there's like 13 premium live events a year where you can wrap that up and like as long as you have like a 3-year career you can hit 41. But no. This is Bret starting at WrestleMania 2 in the Battle Royal all the way through. That's insane. This is
yeah, that's nuts. That's painful to think about. And you think about him wrestling probably another 4 nights a week easily the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Probably more like 5. That's nuts. So, are we ready to get to the finish on this one? Or is there anything else you want to do?
No, the finish is great.
Yeah, the finish is awesome. So, Bret is laid out. He's been beaten down, and Nash is sort of like leaning over him. He's ready to sort of put the coup de grace on him, but it turns out Bret's playing possum, and he grabs a hold of him and wraps Nash up in a small package and gets the win. And it's so fast and so smooth, and the Nash rolls right out of it. The second he releases it, and he's pissed obviously, but the ref counted it. It's like 1, 2, 3. It was it's a beauty.
Yeah, and then so like Diesel had brought Bret back into the ring after taking the table, and is trying to jackknife him, but Bret can't sustain himself, and Diesel's just like, I got him now, and then he picks him up for the jackknife one more time, and that's when Bret rolls him up into the small package, gets the pin, and Diesel goes nuts, and he jackknifes Bret, and then beats up on all the referees that come down to try and stop him from pounding on Bret. And it's like so it was kind of weird coming into this match, but both of them were kind of face, and now we definitely know Diesel is a bad guy. Diesel is the bad guy. He has zero cool. He can't keep it together. He can't lose nobly like that, especially in such a weird little roll-up fashion from the master Bret Hart. So
yeah, Big Daddy not very cool. Am I right?
No cool.
And then as usual for some of these specials, then which is like, well, and then we're out, and you roll the 2-minute little package of highlights and call it a night,
which begins with a hastily patched in Mr. Perfect walking in front of an American flag as like what, like an American flag graphic, and like the video of Mr. Perfect walking out is plastered onto it. It's weird.
Because when I think of patriotism in America, I think of Mr. Perfect, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to go in through our favorite match. I think that one's pretty obvious. Anything else you want to say about Diesel versus Bret here?
No, I mean, this was one of the live matches that were formative in my wrestling memory and wrestling adolescence. And yeah, I thank the Boar for mentioning this thing so that we could go back and watch it. Sorry, there's a bumblebee buzzing around in my basement that came out of nowhere. I have no idea where it came from.
Get him on the mic.
So
Let's ask him some questions.
Kind of freaking me out. It's on the monitor right now. So
oh, that's funny.
There it goes. Okay. All right. So yeah, things are great right now.
Under any least favorite match in this one?
Oh, least favorite? It's probably going to be that opening Survivor Series match.
Yeah,
probably.
that wasn't great.
It wasn't like it was bad, but it's the weakest spot on the card.
Yeah. What do you think about in terms of an overall rating for this guy out of five stars?
It's probably a solid 3.5, just because that main event is so rock solid.
Yeah, the main event's really good. The special attraction Goldust Bam Bam match, the women's Survivor Series match, and the Dark Side versus the Royals match are all pretty good. 3.5 is probably fair. Maybe 3 3/4 if I'm feeling generous. Everything gets a half-star bump for a Bret Hart match.
Yeah, you catch me on the right day, this could go up to a 4, but, not today.
Minus half a star for the Bumblebee messing with your mojo.
I know, Jesus.
What a jerk.
I've lost track of it, too. I have no idea where it went.
Yeah. Well, I hope he gets that weird fungus that all the bees are getting. So as we do every episode, we like to just take a moment to pay tribute to the men and women that we've seen who are no longer with us. So our in memoriam for Survivor Series 1995 from Landover, Maryland includes Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, Skip Bodydonna, a.k.a. Chris Candido, Rad Radford, Bertha Faye, Paul Bearer, King Mabel, British Bulldog Davy Boy Smith, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Razor Ramon, Mr. Fuji, Bam Bam Bigelow, and referee Timmy White. All right, so that's all we got for you today. We thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can always shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. You can find us on the web at allthewrestlemanias.com. You can find us on Twitter at WrestleManiaPod. And, of course, we've got all the usual socials on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for All the WrestleManias podcast. We'll pop right up. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/allthewrestlemanias. Drop us the cost of a cup of coffee. Helps keep us in bandwidth and equipment, and we don't have advertising budgets, but eventually maybe, who knows. And we would certainly appreciate that. Anything else you want to plug before we call it a day?
Oh, we'll see you at VCW this Friday and Saturday at ODU.
Hell yeah. So long, everybody.